It's Tuesday, February 11th, 2020. This is 5 on your side at 10.
We are in storm alert tonight as another round of winter weather heads our way. We'll break down the timing and when the snow starts in the metro area.
There's really no hydrants out there at all.
A close call for a family who narrowly escaped a massive house fire.
Department store makeup versus drugstore deals.
This one still feels like really moisturized and like velvety, and this side feels really dry.
Is the fancy stuff really worth the extra cash? We put the makeup to the test.
Here we go again. Another round of winter weather headed our way. We are in storm alert tonight.
And we all want to know, will this latest round impact our morning rush hour? Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell has the answer.
Well, and I think most of us in the metro area are going to escape anything early in the rush hour, but towards the end of the rush hour, there is the potential as this creeps up from the south and moves towards us. Right now, it's just cloud cover in St. Louis. The leading edge of what is rain at the moment is down across Arkansas at this moment, and the energy from the system is still way back to the south and west, but this whole area will blossom through the overnight hours, and as that moisture creeps to the north during the overnight hours, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, initially starting as rain south of St. Louis, and when it first starts in St. Louis, probably around 9, 10 o'clock, maybe as early as 8, just on the southern side of the metro area, it's probably going to be snow or a snow-rain mix for an hour or two before that lifts off to the north. And we'll be looking at the heavy rain off to the south and east of St. Louis. So mainly north and west of St. Louis during the day tomorrow is where it will stay snow. Metro area is mostly going to be rain. It will end as snow Wednesday night with some light accumulations perhaps in the metro, but more accumulating snow is north and west of town. Everybody, though, is going to have to deal with the Arctic cold. We'll be in the single digits. What it will feel like Thursday afternoon and actually be there for low temperatures Friday morning. We'll go hour by hour across the viewing area in just a few minutes with what's happening tomorrow.
Scott, thank you. Before you go to bed, download the 5 on your side app so you can get traffic and news alerts anytime, plus a detailed forecast from our team of meteorologists.
We also have breaking news tonight. A police officer run over in Veneta Park.
Officials with the North County Police Cooperative tell us this happened while the officer was chasing someone. And our Sarah Maki is at the police department in Veneta Park with the breakdown of what led up to this and the officer's condition. Sarah?
Yeah, very first things first, the officer has some pretty serious injuries, but is expected to be okay and survive all of this. And now police, they say that they are still searching for the person who ran over their officer. Here's what happened tonight. Police were called to a local business around 6:15 this evening because somebody was trying to pass what were suspected counterfeit bills there. Police were on scene when they say that suspect then came back, likely trying to get his bills back. Police followed the suspect to the parking lot where they say a second person then tried to run over the officer as he chased that suspected counterfeiter. This all comes after the department lost another officer last year, Officer Michael Langsdorff, while investigating a counterfeit bills case. They say that it's hard to get these kinds of calls.
I know that runs through their mind, but one thing that I can assure you, that anybody that slaps a badge on, no matter how big or small, 99.99% of them are good officers, good men and women that come out here every day just to protect and serve.
So the officer who was involved in this actually is a supervisor, has about 8 years in law enforcement, and has been with the cooperative for a couple of years as well. Again, expected to be okay, but has some pretty serious injuries on his head, his limbs, on the side of his body. We are also told that now police are looking for the car and that it is a white sedan, an import, maybe a Mazda or a Honda. But here's the key part. They say that the passenger rear view mirror was knocked off in this incident. So if you see that car, you're asked to call police. Live tonight, Sarah Maki, 5 on your side.
We have more breaking news tonight concerning the Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues. 36-year-old defenseman Jay Bouwmeester collapsed tonight on the bench in Anaheim. The game has been suspended. That's how serious this is. Our Ahmad Hicks has more now. Ahmad?
Yeah, Mike, a very scary situation. Jay Bouwmeester didn't appear to get hit on the play. He was skating to the bench where he was drinking water, and that's when he collapsed. The medics were rushed over, but the Blues did announce that he was conscious, his eyes were open, and on the way to the Anaheim hospital. We'll have more updates once some are made available.
All right, Ahmad, thank you. St. Louis County is now looking for a new police chief and looking for the money to pay a $10 million discrimination settlement. Our Casey Nolan is live in Clayton, where the county council met tonight, and Casey reports the county could have to go to court again in order to pay for the case it just lost. What's going on now, Casey?
Well, Mike, a lot of people are wondering, how does a cash-strapped county come up with $10 million? Well, the county has insurance for things like these, but now there are questions about whether the insurance company will pay up.
Historic day in county government, and one that will measure both the past and the future.
That's how County Executive Sam Page sees Monday's settlement with Lieutenant Keith Wildhaber for $10 million. He sued the county for passed over promotions and retaliation for being gay.
The incompetence of the Page administration has been on full display with the Wildhaber case.
But now there are questions about how the county can pay the $10 million. The county executive wants to use money from bonds to pay Wildhaber until the county can collect insurance money, essentially taking out a loan to pay Wildhaber, which could cost the county millions more if it's not paid back quickly. Page says that won't happen because they'll pay off the bonds once the insurance money comes through. But will it? 5 on Your Side has learned the insurance company might dispute the claim because it says the county didn't tell them about Wildhaber's suit soon enough. The argument goes the insurance company might have taken Wildhaber's original settling offer for less than $200,000. And now they don't want to help the county pay the $10 million. The county executive released a copy of the contract he believes will force the insurance company to cover the county.
I think you're caught up in the false narrative that got legs, and everyone's having trouble digesting the facts once they've been presented, that our insurance claim is very strong.
But they haven't ruled out the possibility that they might have to sue their insurance company. The county executive has ruled out any Prop P, money for public safety. He says none of that will go to pay Wildhaber. As for the chief's retirement announcement coming on the same day as the settlement, no connection to the two stories, says the county executive. Live in Clayton, Casey Nolan, 5 on Your Side.
New information from the city about the timeline for launching the Cure Violence program. A city spokesman told us they plan to start in the Wells Goodfellow and Hamilton Heights area by April 1st. The Cure Violence program addresses crime the same way you would address a health crisis. City leaders still need to approve funding for the St. Louis Health Department to move forward.
An update now on an effort by the St. Louis Board of Education to teach parents how to store their guns. The idea was to send a letter home that would show parents how to lock up their weapons, then require them to sign the letter and send it back to school. The sponsor of that resolution withdrew it at tonight's board meeting. The board deferred to a broader safety resolution passed last year.
The race to the White House, it's in high gear. People in New Hampshire voted in the nation's first primary today.
Early results of Bernie Sanders in the lead, followed closely by Pete Buttigieg. Former Vice President Joe Biden is already in South Carolina. He started campaigning for their primary, which is 2 weeks away. Biden is in 5th place in New Hampshire right now, behind Sanders, Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, who's having a good night, and Elizabeth Warren.
Something's happening here, and we just want to seize the moment.
Thank you. It feels good. We're going to have a good night.
Thanks so much for being with us. It's so important.
We have a chance to do really, really well here.
We'll have the final results from these primaries online and in our app as soon as they come in.
He was an Amazon driver shot over a disabled parking space. 22-year-old Jalen Walker took a bullet to the spine. He is now paralyzed. I was with Jalen as he left for Craig Hospital in Colorado to continue his rehab. He's a young father trying to defeat the odds. He will be at Craig Hospital until the end of February, and he could use some encouragement. So if you'd like to send a note to Jalen, he'd love to read them. Please send letters to Craig Hospital, care of Jalen Walker, 3425 South Clarkston Street, Englewood, Colorado, 80113. You can also find that address on our website, KSDK.com. Look under the As Seen on TV section.
Now to new developments on an animal abuse case that is so disturbing that we need to warn you that the images you're about to see will be graphic. The Madison County State's Attorney filed felony charges for animal torture and aggravated cruelty against Rodney Johnson today. Police say Johnson sprayed a toxic chemical on this dog named Charlie, causing burns and other injuries so bad that Charlie may lose his eye. The Wet Nose Project is raising money to pay Charlie's vet bills. If you would like to help out, you can head to our website, KSDK.com. We have a story under the As Seen on TV tab where you can find a link to donate.
Girls on the Run St. Louis just got a huge boost thanks to a face you probably recognize, the Office star and St. Louis native, Jenna Fisher.
The NHL has agreed to make a $10,000 donation to Girls on the Run St. Louis, and I'm just really excited to be able to share this gift with you because I admire and love the work you're doing, so keep up the good work.
Fisher helped the nonprofit make the announcement on Twitter this morning. The NHL is making this donation to recognize Fisher's captain role for All-Star Weekend. Girls on the Run, it's a nonprofit. It promotes healthy living for girls between 3rd and 8th grades. The executive director tells us this money means scholarship, get this, for more than 60 girls in St. Louis.
If you buy expensive makeup, you want to believe it's worth the price. But could a dupe be just as good? We ask a dermatologist to find out if there are really any differences between high-end cosmetics and their less expensive imitations.
Two of the largest wireless carriers in the country, T-Mobile and Sprint, are moving towards a merger that would impact 100 million customers. What it could mean for your cell phone bill.
It still looks like we're going to be warm enough that this is mostly rain for the majority of the metro area, but the Arctic air gets everybody behind this system.
Telling the stories of St. Louis with Mike Bush, Ann Allred, Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell, and Sports Director Frank Cusimano. You're watching 5 on your side at 10.
All 4 federal prosecutors on the Roger Stone case quit. One of them resigning from the Justice Department. Stone was convicted of lying to Congress in the Russia investigation. The recommended sentence was 7 to 9 years behind bars. But the Justice Department reversed the recommendation, saying that sentence was excessive. Now, it's up to the judge to decide this. The flip came after a late-night tweet from the president calling the recommendation horrible and unfair. Stone is scheduled to be sentenced next week. A massive mobile merger is closer to a reality. A judge approved the $26 million Sprint and T-Mobile merger. Many argued it would limit competition and mean higher prices for customers. But T-Mobile promised phone bills will remain the same for the next 3 years and has agreed to create a new, smaller wireless carrier with Dish. The deal can't close, though, until the California Public Utilities Commission approves it.
Designer makeup apparently is all the rage, but it can break the bank, so is it worth it?
That is the question our Jenna Barnes set out to answer in tonight's cover story, testing the pricey products against their drugstore dupes to save you money. And here's what she found.
If you can get the same look for less, why spend more? So we asked St. Louis stylist Valerie Brown.
This was expensive.
To put these low-cost versions of high-end products to the test. On our models, Kayla and Kate, who have opposite beauty beliefs.
I typically stick to brands that I know, which are typically in Sephora.
Honestly, the cheap stuff, I really don't wear makeup.
For each of these tests, Valerie's applying the pricey products to the left side of the face and their drugstore dupes to the right. First up, eyeshadow palettes. Urban Decay's Naked 3 will set you back $54. LA Girl Nudes is just $7.99.
So this, I don't have much hope in this.
Valerie notes a quality difference between the brushes included in each set.
I mean, that's not very fluffy at all.
But once the shadows are applied, they look nearly identical. Next up, mascara. We're pitting Kayla's favorite, the $30 Dior Show.
It just gives me the right look that I'm looking for.
Against Maybelline's Total Temptation, which is about a third of the price.
It does surprise me.
The eyelash impact is virtually the same. Consider them duped.
Wow, I might have to give that one a try.
Moving on to blush. NARS is a bestseller. But at $30, can it top Milani's $7 version?
More pigmented, but not in a good way.
Valerie wasn't a fan of the budget-friendly blush, while Kate preferred it. It's hard to see the $23 difference here. Last, but certainly not least, we're channeling the classic red lip with the trendy Kylie Lip Kit coming in at $29, and the NYX Lip Cream, which is $6.50. Right away, we can tell the colors aren't the same. And for our models, that's not the only thing.
This one still feels like really moisturized and like velvety, and this side feels really dry.
It is, there's definitely a difference.
They both prefer the low-cost NYX.
Oh my Atlanta.
Now we know we can achieve a designer look without the designer price tag. But I was curious, is there something in the higher-end products that makes them cost more?
Do the ingredients change when you reach a different price point?
The ingredients were very similar. Most patients who come in for the
Dermatologist Dr. Lauren Council studied the products we tested and found the biggest differences were in the packaging.
You might notice subtle differences between different products that make you like one more than the other. But if they seem similar and you don't have any kind of a reaction to it, then there's really no reason why you couldn't just pick the one you prefer.
And if you prefer saving money, here's how our bills stack up. Our designer picks set us back about $143. The drugstore dupes cost just $32.
Oh yeah, go for the cheap makeup.
We saved more than $100 with those dupes, and I've kind of always operated under the premise that you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I've been overspending.
Well, and it's cool to hear the dermatologists say there's really no difference when you get down to the brass tacks of what's in this stuff.
Exactly.
'Cause everybody's always worried about, what they're putting into their bodies and soaking through their largest organ.
Right.
But another part of it, in the vanity side, is you spend money on makeup and you want it to last, because if you're going to reapply and reapply, you're not really saving money. So how did you that work out?
We heard back from our models and pretty much everything got rave reviews. The one thing one of our models said with that Maybelline mascara, the cheaper mascara, after several hours it started to flake off. So that's something to consider when you're looking to make this investment.
So is your new makeup store Walgreens?
It will be. I'm already wearing a drugstore brand color, so
Yeah,
I'm
and
convinced.
I've got drugstore foundation on.
There you go.
All right.
All right, let's go over to Scott Connell. We are in storm alert with a wintry mix headed our way.
And Mother Nature is going to paint some pretty colors across the bi-state region on our weather maps in a few minutes. Right now, just the clouds at Lambert. We are still above freezing at 35 degrees now, with the clouds continuing to roll in. We made it to 45 today. That's important into our forecast for tomorrow because the ground is warm. And generally, we're going to be above freezing for most of the storm. Moisture is on the increase. The energy with this system still back into New Mexico, spreading into West Texas. Let's break this down hour by hour across the area. Through midnight, we just have the clouds. As we head towards 3, 4, 5 o'clock, we'll start to see rain break out from Salem over to Lesterville, Perryville, and that starts nudging to the north. On the leading edge of that, it will be cold enough by 6 o'clock south of St. Louis, especially as you get down here into western Jefferson County, down towards Cuba, down towards Rolla, where it's more of a rain-snow mix or transitioning to all snow. During the rush hour, especially towards the end of it, this all nudges to the north. We do expect it to start as mainly snow in St. Louis, and certainly when it begins to the north and west of town as snow. And then there's a rain-snow mix. Not going to stay that way for very long before warmer air comes in aloft and changes it all over to rain. And some of that rain down to the south and southeast of St. Louis could very well be pretty heavy at times tomorrow, with upwards of an inch by the time this thing is done from Perryville over to Mount Vernon. Temperatures are still above freezing, even north and west of St. Louis, where it stays mostly snow. Back towards Mexico, Missouri, Bowling Green, up towards Carrollton, even into Litchfield, probably staying all snow farther north and northwest of St. Louis. Here's something else. As we head into tomorrow towards the evening rush hour, drier air is trying to push in from the southwest, and that means areas off to the southeast of St. Louis will see things shut down pretty quickly, and it will be mostly rain there anyway. Meanwhile, as the cold air starts to swing on through, we'll change it back over to snow for a brief period tomorrow night across the metro area. Probably a trace to an inch across most of the metro, but you won't have to go that far north and west before we start to see the amounts increase, and maybe 2 to 4, perhaps even 5 inches in a few places, Bowling Green up towards the Quincy area. But again, across the metro, it depends on where that rain-snow line kind of wavers. The winter weather advisory is in effect north of St. Louis for tomorrow into tomorrow night. There's a flash flood watch in effect for areas to the southeast, including Mount Vernon to Pinckneyville to Perryville. So the AM mix goes to a cold rain in St. Louis tomorrow. It is mostly a wet storm for St. Louis. It is going to have an impact, though, through the midday hours into the afternoon as it literally pours in St. Louis with temperatures in the 30s. And then once we see that change over to snow, that won't last very long. And the cold doesn't last very long, and that's good because wind chills will be in the single digits Thursday afternoon as we drop to around 20 by midday and hold there. 5 for the low Friday morning.
It is going to be freezing on Friday.
Yeah, warms up though Sunday.
All right, thank you.
Coming up in sports, what does Cardinals pitcher Jack Flaherty do to top how he finished in 2019? Frank Cusimano has the answer when we come back.
Rideshare apps come with risks and little oversight.
The Missouri legislature has exempted them.
We'll investigate this lack of regulation and the ride-sharing companies' hiring policies tomorrow at 10, only on 5 on Your Side.
Welcome to Jupiter, Florida. When you text with Chris Carpenter and you're friends with Bob Gibson and you locate your upper 90s fastball perfectly, you're going to be special. And that's exactly what Jack Flaherty has become. In fact, last year, he held opponents to a 192 batting average. That's the lowest by a Cardinal pitcher since Bob Gibson's historic 1968 season. Also, his .91 second half ERA was the third lowest in baseball since 1920. So how does Jack get better?
Just consistency, and staying healthy. I don't know if I'm improving on staying healthy, but there's more ways to stay healthy and more things you can do to put your body in better shape for the long season after you know what that feels like.
And you did what this offseason to put your body in better shape?
I just work, paid more attention to nutrition and just the benefits you can get out of that. Same thing with sleep.
Factoring in age, years under team control, and that glistening talent, I don't think there's a pitcher on the planet Earth that I would trade Jack Flaherty for. That's the story here from Jupiter. For more in the sports world, let's go to Ahmad Hicks with the rest of the day.
Now, as we said earlier, scary scene for the Blues on their West Coast trip taking on the Anaheim Ducks. Jay Bouwmeester, an NHL Ironman for his record 700 straight games played, one of the toughest guys on the ice, went down tonight after just appeared to be just skating to go get a drink of water, then collapsed on the bench. It was shortly after the Blues had tied the game at 1. Players seen screaming at the trainers and doctors to hurry over to Bouwmeester's side. He was quickly put on the stretcher and transported to the hospital. His eyes were open. He was conscious, according to the Blues' Darren Payne. The teams agreed to postpone the game. It will be made up at a later date. We'll provide details on Bouwmeester's status when they are made available. On the hardwood now, the Fighting Illini were trying to get back in the win column, taking on Michigan State. And Xavier Tillman, he would have that shot that would basically put up the Spartans big in the first half. Illini would fight back, but he had a monster duck at the end of the game, and it was the Spartans who would end up taking down the Fighting Illini. As for another team trying to stay in the win column, Mizzou taking on LSU tonight. Tigers coming off a win versus Arkansas the other night. Mitchell Smith put the Tigers up 12 in the first half, but LSU stormed back. Skylar Mays' elbow jump shot, that would give LSU the lead. And then later on, it's Darius Days with the dagger, and Mizzou would drop this game 82-78. And finally, a matchup of the top high schools here in St. Louis. Vashon hosting Melville. Kentucky signee Cameron Fletcher started out the game on fire. Canning his three, he had 24 points. Melville trailed by double digits, but King Waller kept them in it. And then Davion Bradford got them fired up with this half-court alley-oop from Dylan Branson. But Nick Kern brought the house down with this jam. Vashon goes on to win 70-63. So big day for basketball, but a scary day for the Blues.
And you said, just so we're clear, that Bouwmeester on the way to the hospital was alert and conscious.
According to the Blues' Darren Payne, he was conscious. His eyes were open, so we're hopeful that everything is okay.
Okay, prayers.
Ahmad, thank you. Well, Scott, even if it's going to be in the single digits Thursday and Friday, still never too cold for Ted Drews, when you'll be able to get your first taste of the St. Louis favorite this season. Who cares about the cold weather? It's time for frozen custard. Starting tomorrow, you'll be able to get your hands on Ted Drews. The Chippewa location opens at 11 a.m. Each season, Ted Drews closes in early January. They reopen in time for Valentine's Day. And then the Grand location will reopen sometime in May.
All right, one last check of the weather, because when you go out tomorrow, you got to be careful.
Yeah, it is going to be wet for most of the day. Initially, it starts as a little bit of snow in the morning, probably at the end of or right after the morning rush hour in St. Louis, a little sooner south of town. But it's not staying snow in the metro area for very long. After an hour or two, it goes over to a cold rain, and that's the way it'll stay most of the afternoon with the snow north and west of St. Louis. The higher amounts of snow are not in the metro area as it changes back over to snow before it ends. So we're just going to get a little bit around Metro St. Louis at the very onset, then that washes away, and then at the end of it, and then the Arctic air is here Thursday and Friday.
All right, Scott, thanks. And there you have it, 5 on your side at 10. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon is next.
Guests include Constance Wu and the Backstreet Boys. Have a great tomorrow.
The On Your Side team is always with you for live streaming, news alerts, and podcasts, all in your neighborhood.